Hey guys, good morning and Merry Christmas. Welcome back to the channel. So today's video, I just wanted to address some of the comments that were made in the previous video about being stuck on the expressway in the snow. I awoke this morning to find many comments in the comments section on that video, some of which were pretty negative. First, let me say thank you to everybody that were well-wishers and also some people gave some good advice, which I appreciated. There were also a number of extremely rude comments, including one individual that basically went onto every single comment and just added his 2 cents about how incompetent, or not incompetent, but no common sense, that I had no common sense, and uh, someone that was formerly really supported the channel, and it was well, I don't know that I'd say it was hurtful, but it was. It took me a lot of time. I had to go through every single comment and look for his reply, and I had to wipe them all off because it was just plain rude, and also he lacked an understanding really of what's fully going on here. So I wanted to explain more in depth. So a couple things to say. First off, for those that were saying I put my family at risk. Number one, in life, we are all always at risk. So I want to throw that out there. Leaving the house to go check the mail at the mailbox, you're putting yourself at risk because of cars driving down the road, or going for a walk, you could be hit by a car, or going out, so you could be hit by lightning. I mean, you're always at risk. You have to look at reasonable risk and unreasonable risk. My wife grew up here in Minnesota. She's used to heavy winters, below zero and 5 feet of snow everywhere and that kind of thing. And so whenever we travel to Minnesota, especially over the holiday season, my wife's very big on planning ahead and packing a lot. So the car was, I mean, it was full. There were 3 adults in there, but then the back seat next to my son was full of luggage. The entire trunk full of luggage. The entire frunk full of luggage. We had water, we had food, we had many blankets, pillows, lots of winter coats, gloves, hats. I mean, we were set to spend the entire weekend in the car if we needed to. But my wife's big on planning ahead like this. It's better to bring too much and not need it than to need something that you don't have. So she's always done that. She's always been that way. Number two, did we watch the weather? Yes. We knew that we were going to be encountering some snow, but every time we've ever traveled to Minnesota over Christmas, and we've done this dozens of times, every single time we hit snow. Every single time, there's just no way around it. So and in fact, this didn't look as bad because the travel from Northern Illinois, where we live, to Minnesota, about 80–90% of that was clear. It was 54 degrees, sunny, dry, up to the northwest corner of Wisconsin. So there was only going to be a small portion between that area and my wife's family's house that we were going to encounter the snow. And but we realized that we would be past all of the barren areas where you're in the middle of nowhere by the time we reached there. So we'd be going through snow in populated areas where if we did get stuck, we could easily leave the car and bundle up and just trudge through a ditch and get to a way stop or a gas station or something. And that indeed was the case. In fact, as we were driving, and well, so I'll back up for just a moment. A couple people had said, "Why didn't you turn around when you hit the storm?" First off, we hit the storm like a wall. Boom! It was just instantly heavy, heavy snow, and there was no place to turn around. In fact, even rest areas were plowed in. You couldn't even pull into a rest area to park. We were forced to keep going, at least in that stretch. So that's one thing. But number two, by the time we did get stuck, indeed, on the left and the right sides, you could see 100 yards off away was gas station, and there were numerous small businesses on the right. And then on the left was there was a fitness center and shopping center. There were several businesses on our left that we could have gotten to. So we weren't in imminent danger of freezing to death in the car. Worst case scenario, we would have had to have left the car. I would have gotten a phone call that your car's been flatbedded to an impound yard, and it would have been $500 or whatever to get the car out. So we were never in, at least in that area, we weren't really in much peril as far as that goes. Also, The spot that we were in, a lot of people have commented on winter tires, and I actually agree. Winter tires do help a lot in snow driving, but here's the thing with that: winter tires help in general winter driving. In this instance, what had happened was there was rain, then a flash freeze, then snow. So there was ice, and in most areas, that oily black ice with snow over the top of it. And what had happened was on the expressway on the right hand lane, it was hard packed. It was good traveling. And so that's where we were traveling. The traction was fine. Everyone was going 35 to 38 miles an hour. But then there was a section where it was, you couldn't drive on the right hand lane anymore. So people were easing over to the left. Traffic was backed up. And then in the spot we got stuck, I could see on the left there was loose snow, and I'd rather be on the hard pack. But everybody was getting off to the left, and it happened to be somewhat drifted there to where it was quite deep. There were cars ahead of us, were two vans that both had snow tires on them. In fact, the one van, they were almost knobby tires. You could see as they spun, it would throw snow out of the tread, that it was deep, heavy tread. The van was jacked up as well. He had plenty of ground clearance. But it was a two-wheel drive van. He was stuck. Ahead of him was another van, winter tires, stuck. Ahead of that van were two semis, both stuck. None of them were in the ditch. They were just on the flat road, couldn't move, stuck. So, and we were behind them. And then there were people behind us that couldn't move either. So, though my car is probably less well equipped for the winter than those vehicles from a tread and ground clearance standpoint, they were still stuck as well. So, again, I go back to winter tires are good for general driving. I totally agree with that. However, in this specific instance, it wouldn't have helped. And the rest of the way to my wife's family's house, we were passing cars in ditches and semis and even SUVs in ditches, and yet we made it with our subpar tires, low profile, low car. Why? Because I am pretty good at driving in the winter. This is the first time I've ever needed to be pulled out, ever. I drive 50 plus thousand miles a year between business and personal. Business is 40 plus thousand, a little over 10,000 a year personal miles. I grew up in Northern Illinois. We always have, every winter, there are several days of heavy snow. I've gotten used to driving in it. Snow tires would be helpful, yes, but here's the thing. Where we live, there's really only, on average, 2 to maybe 3 days at the most per year, per winter, that snow tires would be nice. And what I do in those days is I just don't travel. I'm self-employed. I call my clients and I reschedule the appointments. And again, I think I did that once last year, maybe twice the year before, but let's call it 3 days a year. For 3 days a year, having a set of winter tires, I would just rather not go out. Now, traveling up here, a couple people made the comment that we should have an all-wheel drive SUV, for traveling here. I would agree with that, but we come here once a winter. So maybe a better solution is to rent a Jeep or something to come up here, which is always a possible choice. So that's why those are some of the scenarios. That's some of the detail and information that you guys may have not known. Also, after we got stuck, my wife was not, you shouldn't have done this, and I told you, it was none of that. We all knew it was inevitable. It was really obvious when you were in that situation. And in fact, there was a public service officer that came up behind me and on foot. He had parked a ways back and he was checking on people. And he said, "Are you guys, safe? Are you warm?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I feel like a nuisance." He said, "So the 2 semis and 2 trucks ahead of you aren't a nuisance, and the 3 cars behind you that are stuck aren't a nuisance, and all the cars in the right-hand lane that are stuck boxing you in aren't a nuisance?" He said, "Sir, everybody's stuck here. Everybody's stuck." So I thought, oh, well, that's very true. And so he was kind and he asked, "Do you have food? Do you have water? Are you okay if you need, yeah, we're fine." And he said, "Is there, anyone that's ill in the car?" No, we're all good. I mean, he was great about it. So there were so many parts to this whole thing that you guys didn't know about. I didn't want to make the video really long. And a thumbnail on a video that says, oh, we're all good. It was a little snowy, but we're traveling, would have gotten 6 views, right? A video that is a thumbnail that is, we were stuck and stranded, which we were stranded for 2.5 hours, but people are going to watch that, right? So it's there's a lot of different things swirling around here. We even had a conversation in the car. My son said, so what do we do if we're like stuck here overnight? And so my wife said, well, she said, we would just leave the car and go, we could see lights from all these buildings. She's like, we would leave the car and just walk to one of these businesses, and we'd come get the car tomorrow, or it would get towed, and whatever. Another thing is, a few hours up the road is my wife's family, a couple of which have 4x4s. They could have driven down to pick us up as well. I mean, there were so many ways to explain that, we weren't at risk any more than just traveling at all. In fact, on the way up here, it was a 70-mile-an-hour speed zone. We were going 75 to 77 miles per hour for much of the way. I would argue that going 75 on dry roads is potentially more dangerous than going 28 miles an hour on a snowy road, all things considered. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at this. And so I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the suggestions as well. I would say where I erred more than anything else was not having a shovel. Although a shovel wouldn't have helped here, because we had people clearing us out, and even though there was nothing under the car, nothing around the car, it wouldn't move. It was literally black ice right there. So, but still, a shovel would have been nice. We bought a shovel at the Hy-Vee at the Oakdale, Minnesota Supercharger, a telescoping compact travel shovel. So we have a shovel, and I'll probably just leave it in the car. So that's one thing that, yes, would have been helpful. In general, snow tires would have been helpful, but I go back to, in this specific spot where we were stuck, wouldn't have done us any good. And in the rest of the trip, we were fine without them. So there's all of these things wrapped up. And yeah, it was exciting, though, to say the least. And, we have cell phones. This is not 40 years ago where there weren't any cell phones. We all had cell phones. We were all updating everybody with what was going on. And, we had people saying, do you want us to come get you? Are you all right? So it's, I appreciate all the concern. I appreciate you guys watching the videos. And so I still have, let me grab this here. If just so you guys know, the aluminum swiveling screen mount kits for the Model 3 that I market, there's a $30 off sale still running through today. It's Christmas. Maybe I'll run it through the whole weekend. I don't know, but it's a Christmas sale. If you want to get one, go ahead and order. I don't know. We're probably 10 to 12 days out on shipping right now. So I keep getting questions about that. So anyway, that's it for me for today. And I appreciate you guys all. I really do. Also coming up, I'm going to be shooting a couple other videos. This trip, this experience has brought to light a few things that I want to share about the ownership experience of the car in the winter, in the snow and cold, traveling with it that I hadn't really thought much about previously. So, one last thing to share is, and I'll probably shoot a longer video on this, but the energy in the battery. We were at 28% state of charge, and we were drawing 280 watts of energy. And now, if I were to turn the heat on periodically and all that, I calculated we had 40 hours of battery charge. We were 21 miles from a supercharger, so even if you take the 21 miles and back that out, we had probably 20 hours, 15 to 20 hours of battery storage to use, and still have enough charge to get to the charger. But again, 40 hours if we didn't worry about getting to the charger, and we were just going to be there in the car with the air going or whatever, with the heat going. So yeah, it was, if we were in a gas car with, say, a third of a tank, I don't think we would have had 40 hours of engine idling, So actually being in an electric car, highly insulated car with, good battery storage there, I wasn't too worried about that. Range anxiety is always a thing when you're traveling. But so anyway, that's it for me for today. You guys have a Merry Christmas. And as always, Stay charged. Bye-bye now.